What is up, bros and broettes? I am Inkslasher, and today's going to be a little bit of a rant. There's a recent trend in the Call of Duty community talking about the new DLC coming out for Modern Warfare Remastered, and the fact that it's going to be more expensive than when it actually came out for Call of Duty 4, and how Activision, basically every decision that Activision is making is completely money-driven. And we're going to talk about how that could actually change to improve the Call of Duty game, and compare it to older Call of Duties, because the reason why I'm making this is, as of late, I've been playing older Call of Duties, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and if you guys are interested in it, I'd be more than open to making videos on those games, and I'm actually kind of considering that. So, if you would like to see that, just hit that like button, and it'll show that you want to see more things like that with older Call of Duty games. But by playing these older Call of Duty games, it's really brought to light to me what the difference between current Call of Duties is and past Call of Duties are. So, I want to talk about that difference and how going back to what they used to do with Call of Duty games could actually save the franchise, because as of right now, Call of Duty is in a downward spiral, and I want to talk about why that is and what can be improved to fix that. So the first thing is we've talked about this many times before, releasing two Call of Duties at the same time, being Modern Warfare Remastered and Infinite Warfare, I think was a horrible idea. Whether or not they sold more copies of the game because of that, it causes a problem because now the Call of Duty community is split, people are playing different games, and it's just not a united thing like we're used to seeing in Call of Duty. However, I made a video talking about that in the past, talking about why it was a bad decision to release Modern Warfare Remastered when they did, all of that kind of thing. That's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about, the thing you got to understand is the difference between a developer and a publisher. So the publisher of Call of Duty is Activision. They are the ones that foot all the bills and choose and make most of the final decisions that go into the game, because they're the big daddy. They are the ones that actually pay Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Sledgehammer. They foot the bill, basically. And then you got the developers, the people who actually make the games. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand about this is the people who make the game, they put everything they got into that game. They want the game to be as fantastic as possible, and it really does show. As you guys may or may not have known, I went down to LA and I actually visited Infinity Ward a while back, I believe it was in January, to play DLC 1 and get gameplay for that earlier. And the thing with that is I actually got to speak with a lot of the developers at Infinity Ward, and the thing with all of them, literally every single person that I talked to, they're incredibly passionate about Infinite Warfare. They want the game to be as great as possible. So when a lot of people are complaining about Infinite Warfare or Call of Duty, they think it's Infinity Ward's fault. That, in my opinion, is 100% not the case. They aren't the ones that make the decisions whether or not there's going to be supply drops, whether or not there's going to be paid DLC, any of these things. Activision is the one that makes the decisions, because when it comes down to the monetary value, they're the ones that profit the most, is the most basic way to look at it. And I think a lot of people do understand that, but I think a lot of people are also in the dark and think that Infinity Ward is the only people that make decisions. And that is simply not the case whatsoever. But why am I telling you this? So the main reason why I'm telling you this, because the thing I'm going to talk about next, you need to think of it as a business mentality. You need to think of money, not necessarily the games itself. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I want to compare the way a Call of Duty game is developed now compared to the old way Call of Duty games were developed. So what exactly do I mean by this? So thinking back to the Modern Warfare 2, the Black Ops 1s, the Black Ops 2s, whatever game you want to think of, every single decision made for that game was to drive sales of the game. Why is that, and how do I know that? So the reason why I know this is because the only way that Activision would actually make money off of those games was the original sale of the game and the sales of the DLCs and season packs. So how do they drive the sales of those things? They simply have to make the games better. And you can see that in the development of the game. One great example of this is in Modern Warfare 2, the addition of the nuke. The nuke never existed in a previous Call of Duty, and it was something to draw players in, to make the game more exciting, make something a little bit more interesting in the game, and further drive the sales of the game. Whether you like the nuke in Modern Warfare 2 or not, it's a decision to better the game, change the game up, make it more interesting, and make more people actually purchase the game and make Activision more money. This was similar to every Call of Duty game up until Call of Duty Ghost. The decisions being made by Activision were decisions to actually make the game better. Jumping forward to present Call of Duties, that's not quite the case. So in Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare, supply drops were introduced. Mass microtransactions, basically. And with these microtransactions, all of a sudden, Activision wasn't making the majority of their money off of the sale of the Call of Duty games. For example, in 2016 alone, Activision sold a total of $3.6 billion worth of microtransactions. In comparison, this is the same as selling about 60 million copies of Call of Duty. And if we look at Black Ops 3 sold around 25 million copies. So not even close to the amount of money they made off of the sale of supply drops. So all of a sudden, in the present Call of Duties, Activision's decisions are no longer going to be made off of what's going to make a good Call of Duty. Their decisions are made off of what's going to make for better supply drops. Now, the real interesting thing about supply drops, if you ask me, is the fact that they've actually depleted the sales of Call of Duty as a whole. If we look at the past 4 Call of Duty games, Call of Duty Ghost, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare, guess what game sold the most, even though by most it was hated? Call of Duty Ghost. And guess what the last Call of Duty game to not have supply drops in it was? Call of Duty Ghost. So why do you think this is? Is this just a coincidence? Maybe. It's possible that is a coincidence, but if you ask me, the reason is because back in Call of Duty Ghost, the thought process of Activision's marketing wasn't on selling supply drops. Their marketing decisions were made off of selling the game itself. And that has changed since Call of Duty Ghost. No longer is their thought process based on selling copies. It's based off of selling supply drops, because not only is it going to make them more money, it's also a lot easier on them. Another interesting thing about Call of Duty Ghost is it was the last game to actually be boots on the ground. That may also be a reason of the sales differences between those games. Now, the big thing that I don't understand about this issue is when we actually look at another hugely popular game right now, Overwatch. So Overwatch is another first-person shooter made or produced by Blizzard. Now, if you don't know anything about Blizzard, Blizzard and Activision are actually kind of owned together. They're like sister companies. Now, the thing with Overwatch is that they're owned by the same people, basically, but the difference is they don't try to milk the money out of the customers like Call of Duty does. For example, Overwatch, all of the DLC in Overwatch is included with the price of admission. When you buy the game, which by the way is a $50 game, it includes all the DLC, all the new maps they release, all the new characters, everything. It includes all of that. Not to mention, the game also has loot boxes, which are essentially supply drops, and you may be thinking, well, there's no difference. However, these loot boxes in Overwatch only contain cosmetic items only. They do not contain any weapons or any game-changing items whatsoever. They just contain really, really cool skins and little things you can get in-game. So we've got 2 games basically produced by the same company, one of which that is actually nice to its customers, and one of which tries to take all of its customers' money. Now, what I don't understand is how Activision hasn't learned from Overwatch and changed the way that they treat Call of Duty altogether. And you may be thinking, well, they haven't learned because they're making so much money off of supply drops. That's true, but when we look at the sales of Overwatch, it actually supports the idea of creating a better game, and marketing the game itself will actually make you more money in the long run. If we look at the amount of sales that Overwatch has, it's over 25 million, which is much more than the current Infinite Warfare. And the more people that buy the game, the more chance there is that they're going to buy loot boxes or supply drops. So really, the thought process of the developer should be to produce the best game as possible, and maybe if we produce cool enough cosmetic items, maybe they'll buy these loot boxes, or maybe they'll buy these supply drops. So what I don't understand is why Overwatch was marketed like that, and Call of Duty is still made to milk the money out of supply drops. So the question of the video, how do we save Call of Duty? And the answer is so simple. We have to change the way Activision thinks, the publisher of the game. We need to change how they think. We need to change their mindset from thinking about supply drops to thinking about the development of the game. Because the developers of the game, the Sledgehammers, the Infinity Wards, the Treyarchs, they very much care about how good their game is. They want to make the game that the people buying the game want, whereas Activision wants to make the game that's going to make them the most money. So what we need to do, the only thing we can do, is simply stop spending your money on supply drops, because the more we do that, the more Activision is going to want to make a game dedicated towards supply drops. So keep your money in your wallet, don't buy supply drops, only buy the game itself, and maybe, just maybe, we can get through to Activision to show them what the customers really want. a good, solid, intuitive Call of Duty game. So every time I make one of these videos talking about how to improve Call of Duty, it always gets a lot of hate because some people think Call of Duty is great the way it is, some people want it to change. So if you enjoyed the video, it would be fantastic if you could hit that like button. If you disagreed with me, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. If you agreed with me, also feel free to let me know down in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel, you can always hit that subscribe button. I upload new Call of Duty videos every single day of the week, and I've got some videos coming from past Call of Duties that I think you guys will really, really like. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, guys, peace out.
We just see everything we believe. We just see everything.